With us today is Libertarian Chris, and we really appreciate you coming on. We're going to talk about being on the right and libertarianism, and also the differences with minorities on the right. So thank you for coming on.
You're welcome. How are you, John?
All right. So I do want to ask how you got into politics in the first place. So I guess your political journey up to this point, getting to libertarianism.
So I'd say in 2016, with the election, during election years, I get more and more into politics. So it started in 2016. I was kind of like a Democrat at the time because I didn't really know politics like that. But my family was a Democrat. We were Democrats, sorry. So I kind of just leaned in with that. And then with this election, kind of was like in the middle, like I say, independent. And as I got into political TikTok, I got further and further right as a neocon in like June, and then at around October or November, I became a libertarian.
Yeah. So what I do want to make a little bit in the conversation is that a lot of the Democratic Party, or I guess the African American vote, is massively voting Democrat. Like I think it's like 92% or something. It was like a crazy number. How do you think I guess your beliefs stand out from other in the demographics when it comes to libertarianism contrasted to people on the left?
I kind of believe that right wing beliefs aren't that far from African American beliefs typically, but African Americans typically tend to vote towards Democrats. It's been like a thing since like the 1930s, going on now, but they tend to believe that the more right wing and stuff. I don't think they're left wing and stuff with the economy, healthcare, stuff like that. But yeah.
Yeah. So I guess what I would want to ask is how did you used to be conservative Chris, now you're libertarian Chris.
Yeah.
What really attracted you to libertarianism, and how did you get into it? What how did you get introduced? What was the the appeal to libertarianism, and how did you get situated?
So as a neocon, I believed in capital. I thought I believed in capitalism, freedom, rights, stuff like that. But I didn't know that the Libertarian Party is the proper actual party for that. Because I realized that the Republican Party wasn't actually pro-capitalism. They aren't actually small government, but it's actually the Libertarian Party, which doesn't get enough recognition as they should. I think in these next two elections, they should be getting more and more traction as a third party.
Yeah. And going off of that, how to implement, leftists has this thing called praxis in a sense. How do libertarians, or I guess helping communities and whatnot, or I mean maybe in that sense, but helping expand the libertarian ideal.
Well, I think first things first, that the two-party system was not gonna help the Libertarian Party at all. We should probably go with electoralism, but yeah. It starts with the two-party system. It's not. I don't see the Libertarian Party taking over the GOP or the Democrats. So yeah.
There's a lot of I hear a lot of people on the right talk, or not on the right, obviously, but people who are free market capitalists or libertarians. They speak on this idea that Republicans, as you said, aren't real capitalists. Can you expand on that idea, on why they aren't real capitalists?
So in America, we have a mixed economy, right? It's kind of like capitalism and socialism a bit. So in our economy, Republicans kind of say they're capitalist, but even Trump had proposed regulations on the economy. So that's not capitalist at all. Capitalism does not advocate for any regulation from the government.
Yeah, I mean, would you say I guess or I'm guessing your opinion also, as you said, Republicans are not small government. And do you think that's harmful to do you think the Republicans are harmful to, I guess, the Libertarian Party, or just the libertarian ideology?
Yes, because I think some Republicans probably they say that their ideology is like small government, stuff like that, but when they vote Republican, they're saying, all right, this is capitalist, this is small government, this is what we want, this is liberty, right? But they're not actually voting for the right party. All right, Republicans and Democrats are not that far apart in the political spectrum. Now, the Libertarian Party is what they should be voting for, when it comes to stuff like that.
You were, I think in the beginning you were talking about like uh, how libertarians can help like African American issues. What do you think, are the best ways to do that?
Well, I'll start with decriminalizing drugs because I believe that the problem with disproportionate African American communities is the war on drugs. That really messed up the African American community. So I think that decriminalizing drugs, which is a popular libertarian belief, would help with that a lot. You know, and like they say, you asked about it actually.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, yeah, I definitely personally, I definitely agree with that stance. Um, and I guess where do you differ then with people on the left? I guess like I mean I understand you're a free market capitalist, but like where's your quarrels? Is it just like the same with Republicans, or like is it the idea of collectivism, or where do you stand against? I guess being on the left.
Well, I think it's more of their economic stances not catering to me in general, and also like the idea of collectivism not being what's the word for it not being successful. You can't. I don't think communism. I've always heard people say communism doesn't work. I think it's more of it can't work.
Hmm.
The way it was set up, the economic calculation problem, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No.
I should look more into that. But yeah, I've been kind of reading some, but
Yeah. I mean, yeah, because I hear, and I'm going back to like, a lot of people. I think to be honest, like what you said like beforehand, also like decriminalizing drugs is a really like uh nuanced thing, on the left and the right. I also want to ask, like, do you think that like your libertarian belief, like we've had, I don't know your stance on like the whole thing that happened in June with like Black Lives Matter or whatnot, and also like police brutality. Is your libertarian stance, I guess, like also apply? I guess. Uh, do you think like that also like could like apply to like a police in certain stances, or like that can also, taking a libertarian stance would also help the community?
so I think I have more of a personal stance towards that with the police. I always hear, "Oh, defund the police," stuff like that. I'm more for a police reform. You know, allocate the funds to the police department for training because training is too short. It's like what 6 months, so it should be longer than that. Train them better, and I think we can get better results from it.
Yeah, and I guess you think that like the police system can be reformed,
Yeah,
and to a certain extent.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because there's a lot of like conflicting. When we were talking about like, there's a lot of conflicting ideas, uh, within like the communities in general. Do you think? I guess I would ask like, why do you think that like you know, why is leftism or liberalism so dominant in like the like minority community, or just people who are POC, or I guess statistically are more likely to vote either Democrat or be on the left?
Well, I think of it as the way as the 1960, I think it was the 64 Civil Rights Act. Ever since, not even since then, but like even before that, that was a big jump for Democrats that helped get the black vote for them. Because no party necessarily helped black people at all, except for the Republican Party in like the 1860s. But after that, it was like the Republican Party didn't necessarily need the minority vote, but Democrats kind of see without the minority vote, I think Republicans would dominate the elections. So with the minority vote, the elections are kind of even. So I think it's more of the Democrats try harder to get the minority vote than any other party, so that's why they tend to get it more.
And do you think that like policies, like as you said before, I mean, you are a libertarian. I'm guessing you prefer Republicans, but like I don't, a lot of people are mixed on that. But where do you think, like besides like policy making, do you think libertarians can appeal to try to? I mean, I just libertarians in general on the entire populace. What do they get, like 3 or like 4% of the vote,
Mhm.
or maybe less? Like, how do you think like they can appeal? Because we had Jorgensen on for, or we're not us, but you had Jorgensen on for our episode. Like, how do you think like they can like appeal to the minority vote, African American vote, but also just everyone?
Well, for minorities, I think they need to make it clear that they are the capitalist party, and that capitalism is probably the most what's the word free, like saying the most free economic system that there is. You know, that it's the most equal, where you have the most equal opportunity to succeed. So I think with that, if the African American community and more POC communities can hear that, that'd be great for the Libertarian Party.
You were saying that Republicans aren't, capitalist.
Mm.
How do you change people to, have your, like, how do you get from Chris from a couple months ago to Chris now for multiple people? Because like that's something that's like a jump for people.
Mm. So I kind of looked more into, people need to look more into what capitalism actually is instead of what capitalism is in America. All right, because what capitalism actually is at its core, has never been properly fundamented, has never been properly in place. Same, you can say the same for communism and socialism. But with the mixed economy we have now, people have misconceptions of what capitalism actually is. But once people kind of learn what it actually is and stuff, then they can kind of get a hint of what the Republican Party is and what the Libertarian Party is, and they can tell the difference between.
Yeah. So there's a lot of talk about social programs, such as like, on the Democratic Party, it's a big thing. Republicans are against social programs, not necessarily small government, because they do believe in prevention. What's your quarrels with, I guess, like, the ideas of like free market healthcare that's going around, or so not free market, sorry, free healthcare that's going around, or welfare? What are your quarrels against to those specific policies, and specifically also like how they impact, help, or I guess, are detriment to minority communities?
So my problem with welfare, I believe that charity is inherently better for everyone in general. And my problem with free healthcare is that people tend to use the argument that healthcare is a right, which is a human right, rather, which isn't true, because saying that it's a right means that the government owes us or it should give it to us, which it shouldn't. Healthcare is more of a need, right? I mentioned this plenty of times in the video, TikTok, but a need being like food, shelter, clothing, healthcare should not be provided by the government, right? But if a right is like a right to freedom of speech, government can't give it to us, but they can't take it away. So that's the difference. It's not necessarily a right.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I guess like, what's like your stance on like the alternative to social programs to help? Is it just like charity, or is it also like among other things? I guess not just saying like healthcare, but like, yeah. Do you think like what do you think like is the best option or the road to like avoid social like policies?
Well, for healthcare, I think I'm more for a privatized healthcare system. I've been looking into that recently, but yeah, I'm still trying to. I've been reading a little bit, time to time, but I'm trying to get more into full time politics. So yeah,
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 for me, I'm personally like it's very hard for me like to read and stuff. Like,
yeah,
like I
school.
mean, yeah, for me, like I'm personally on the left, or I don't know necessarily where I fall on the left, but it's very hard for me to like grasp concepts and read. I mean, like, you know, how is like your like how is that? Because I'm sure like I was asking like how do you get from like Chris from a couple months ago to now? Has it been like friends that have helped you develop your beliefs, critique your past beliefs, and like have you found anything that has helpful for you to move like I guess faster on your journey? I guess to a better ideal.
Yeah. So one of my good friends, we kind of went on the same journey politically. We started out as neocons in the summer, and then we've kind of seen the way politics has gone and kind of changed our beliefs a little bit. But yeah, he's kind of we critique each other every now and then, have our own little mini debates and stuff. I would say debates, more discussions about politics. So
So other than that, I think that that's a good episode. Thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it.